Okay. Hi, it's Andrew and Kristen here from Altitude again. Welcome. This is the third video that we've done in relation to the government stimulus package that's come out as a result of the coronavirus stuff. This is a bit different than the last couple of videos that Kristen and I have done because we're both sitting at home in our respective offices or home working areas because our
Dreaming of mountains.
office is closed and we've got the Altitude Mountains behind us. So, Kristen, welcome.
Thanks.
We've seen obviously some crazy stuff, so I apologise if my ears disappear at given points in time with the technology, but we'll just see how we go. We'll have a bit of fun with it. Look, my left ear's disappeared again. But there's obviously been some announcements in the last few days in relation to the third round of stimulus stuff for businesses particularly, Kristen. And that relates to this, what they're calling the JobKeeper allowance. And you're in the same boat as I am. I've had a ton of calls and emails from clients and others saying, well, now that this is out, what do we do?
Huge.
Are we sticking in the old framework? Are we going to the new framework? What does all this stuff mean for me? What does it mean for my business? Am I entitled? Am I not entitled? So we thought let's get a video organised again for this next round of stuff and just talk through what our understanding of the situation as it stands is. So can you just kick us off? Just tell us what this JobKeeper thing is. Who's entitled to it? How do you get it? Things like that.
Yeah, such a simple question to start off, Andrew. There's so much going on. It's a wage subsidy, obviously, and it's all about keeping Australians employed. So it's $1,500 a fortnight flat for every single employed person.
Right. And yeah, it's different than what was announced previously in terms of the job seeker announcements in the first couple of tranches where people had to get stood down and had to go off to Centrelink and basically line up and get their payments. This is a payment now for your employer to keep you employed.
Yeah, correct. Because basically, the amounts are going to be the same for all Australians. So whether you're on JobSeeker or JobKeeper, it's going to be quite a similar amount. But obviously, we're looking further forward now, at least the government are, and they're saying what we need is people employed and we need businesses to have their good staff employed. Otherwise, where do we go from here in 6 months' time or 9 months' time? So it's all about making it fair for everyone, whether you've lost your job or whether you still have a job and there's no work for you really, that it's still only $1,500 a fortnight to try and make it fair.
Yeah. Okay. So how do you get it? I mean, if you're an employer, how do you get hold of this $1,500 a fortnight wage subsidy?
Well, important to note too, and we should mention up front that this isn't legislation yet. So nothing has been passed. This is the government saying, we think it's going to be, we haven't got it yet. So we will have to be really mindful of that. And at this point in time, you can register with the ATO just by clicking on the ato.gov.au link for JobKeeper and registering your interest. And what you need to put in there is your name, your business name, your ABN, and a mobile phone number, and they'll go and send you a text.
Yeah, okay.
They're saying phone calls will be made later, but it's too early yet.
I think your point there that this is still a concept is really, really important. That what we have now is we've got a whole lot of, I guess, stimulus that has been legislated and is actually in play. And we've got a new announcement that is, I'll call it effectively a press release.
Yeah.
That's not legislated. That's saying, okay, we're going to go and do this, or this is what our plan or our intent is, but it still has to get through Parliament. It still needs to be legislated. It still needs to be implemented, and therefore this is a concept we're talking about, as opposed to something that's I'll put inverted commas here, real.
100%. We have to, as business owners, be very mindful that we don't hang our hat on something that isn't law, because we know already this is going to go for a long time, this crisis. And if we use up all of our cash and it happens to not be passed or passed with lots of changes, it's the business owners that are going to be without the cash.
Yeah, cool. So word of caution to everybody. So this is for information purposes. It's not going to hurt anybody to register, but before you go and do anything random, like if you've stood down a heap of staff, but before you go and drag them out of the Centrelink queues and other bits and pieces and put them back on the payroll, you just have to be mindful of the fact that, well, if this doesn't get passed in its current form, then you've undone effectively where you've got to for now. And yeah,
sure. And look, there are no signs that this won't get passed. It's just not yet.
Yeah.
So I think caution is really important for sure.
Yeah.
It's eligible to all full-time, part-time, and casual employees that you had employed on your books for more than 12 months.
Yeah, and they had to be employed effectively at the 1st of March, didn't they? That's where our
Correct.
conversion
That's
time
right.
is.
Yeah.
And the other thing for employers, this isn't going to apply to all employers, because we know there's certain industries out there that are still doing okay. So, supermarkets, for example, they haven't had a 30% downturn in revenue. There's others in hospitality that have gone to zero. So to qualify, businesses need to demonstrate that 30% drop compared to their revenue for the same or similar period last year. How are they going to do that?
Well, it's self-assessed.
Yeah.
It's self-assessed. So again, registering does nothing except say, hey, I'm interested if this happens. And the assessment can span for the next 6 months. So for supermarkets that you mentioned, Andrew, no, they're not having a downturn now, but will they in April when people have finished hoarding? Potentially. And so they might apply. The other really important thing is that I believe, at least it's not written in the fact sheet that Treasury has put out for us to look at, but what we understand the rules to be are that you have to measure on your BAS period. So it could be monthly or it could be quarterly. Okay. And you can also forecast. So if you're forecasting because you know that you are stopping work at the end of April because the government has stood your business down, for instance, then you can still register.
Yeah, okay. So you might have had be in a sector that's had a really busy period where there's been a lot of jobs completed or a lot of activity happening in anticipation of a shutdown, for example, and then all of a sudden we have a lockdown or a full shutdown and your revenue goes to zero, even though on a like-for-like basis compared to last year, you won't qualify. You can still register based on, and will still qualify based on some forward-looking numbers.
On anticipation, and that's right. And it might not be the April month, for instance, that you'll get your $1,500 back for, but going forward you will.
Yeah.
And
okay.
Once you qualify, you've qualified, and it lasts for 6 months.
Okay. So tell us, or tell our clients and people who are watching, what happens if somebody's getting paid more than $1,500 a fortnight? How does it work?
So our interpretation of that, if we use a $2,000 figure per fortnight, for instance, you've got someone employed, you pay them $2,000 a fortnight, the government will kick in the $1,500. You keep paying them as normal and you lodge your STP as normal, you lodge your BAS as normal. The government at the end of the month or at the end of the quarter will kick in money into your bank account as a reimbursement for payments made.
Okay, so you're effectively out of pocket for the difference between their normal wage and the subsidy you get from the government.
Ultimately, but you're also out of pocket immediately when it comes to cash flow.
Yeah, so you have
there will be a timing effect. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. What about if for somebody, if you are in a stand down process or you're looking at a stand down or a wind down, how does it work there? Can you unilaterally just say, well, even though you're getting paid $2,000 here, I'm going to get $1,500 over here. I'm just now going to adjust your wage to $1,500. Can you do that?
No, you can't really. What they're saying is that you can't ask people to do more work or the same work for less.
Right.
You can have a negotiation with your employees if you don't have the work to do and they're usually working 5 days a week and you say, listen, I can pay you for 4 days a week. and across the fortnight, therefore that is 8, and that's $1,500. That's fine, but it has to be in an agreement. And we have to remember always to go back to our awards as well. So it's different for awards.
Okay, be aware of your employment law and things like that. Just don't randomly do stuff.
No.
What happens if somebody's getting paid less than $1,500 a week? Can you ask them to do more work to get them up to what would be the equivalent of $1,500 a week?
Yeah, really interesting question. My interpretation of this is that if they're casual and they're being paid, let's say they work for 3 hours a week, and they are entitled to the $1,500, you have to collect it for them and pay it, you can ask them to do more hours. That is perfectly okay.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Superannuation, what happens there? Do we, do we have to pay super on the $1,500? How does that work?
It appears that you don't have to pay the 9.5% super guarantee on the $1,500, but again, if they're paid over, so if we use the $2,000 example, we have to pay the SGC on the $500 a fortnight. So the government is saying that $1,500, no super to be paid by the employer. Okay. That, at least at this point, is the interpretation that we're taking.
Okay, but employers, if they wanted to, could choose to pay superannuation on the full amount if they wanted to.
Of course, if they wanted to. Yeah,
so
absolutely.
So they didn't feel like their employees were out of pocket or missing out.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay.
Yeah, agreed.
We've got a situation where one of our team members is on maternity leave. Bless her soul, Ellie, off at home looking after a little baby girl. What happens with somebody who's like Ellie, who's on maternity leave or on some sort of other unpaid leave? Are they entitled to get this? How does it work in that respect?
So far, what it sounds like from the government is that you have to actually be in the payroll and you have to have paid something for them to be an eligible employee to receive the payment, for you to claim the payment and for you to pay it onwards. So they have to be in the pays. If you, depending on the size of your business, it could be monthly that you're lodging your BAS or quarterly, and you've got to be lodging your STP as well, as required by the government.
STP being the single touch payroll reporting.
Correct.
And that's how the ATO are going to track this, aren't they, in terms of making sure that people are still employed, or to determine the amount that you're going to get is based on the number of people on your payroll per your reporting.
Correct, that's right. And this is all about keeping people employed too. So we have to remember that so far the indications are that you have to have kept your people employed for the full 6 months too, because there will be backtracking if you don't. Yeah,
okay. The other curiosity that we have with a number of our clients is where they're self-employed, and they might operate through a trust or a partnership or something like that, where they take drawings out of the business. They don't take a salary out of the business. So are they going to be entitled to get hold of this as well if their business has a downturn of more than 30%?
Yeah, special rules for those kind of people, and there's plenty of them. This again is about keeping businesses going and keeping people employed. So although they might not be lodging STP, my understanding is that there will be special rules for those people who are sole traders working out of a trust or whichever structure. They'll certainly be eligible for it, just as they will be eligible to go and receive the JobKeeper. Okay. But the government's preferring that people the JobKeeper, because that means their business is still going.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Cool. And probably the other thing is if you feel like you're getting to a stand down period, or you've stood your employees down, you're actually got a choice now which way you go once this gets legislated. Correct. And I think the biggest thing that I've read about this, or I think is really important, is that if you go through a stand down and you send all your team off to get the JobKeeker payment, the chances are they might get another job.
Yeah, correct. This is about keeping good people, for sure.
Correct. So you need to balance various things with this in terms of cash flow. You need to also balance just the maintenance of your workforce, so that you don't have to, if and when we're ready to get going again, that you don't have to scale up and go and hire 10 new people to start running an efficient business again.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And also, if the government does get to a point, which I'm sure that they will, where we're all in lockdown and no one can operate, only essential services can operate their businesses, it's about keeping those people with the money coming in so they can still buy their groceries and keep their family running.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Anything else we need to know about this particular stimulus stuff that we haven't covered off already?
I think there's going to be heaps of questions. So maybe we can field some questions from people via email or phone. And if we get a bunch of them that are similar, we'll just do another touch base. And also in a couple more days, we'll know a little bit more, because I understand the government is going to be racing this through, try and get it passed in the form that it's in now. And once we've got something firm, it'll be easier to give people advice.
Yeah. Okay, cool. So I think, if we recap over this, just be aware this isn't legislated yet, but it is, if we get this through and it gets through in its current form, whilst there's a lot of detail to come, it does provide a viable option for employers compared to perhaps where we were a week or so ago. But at the same time, just make sure you're aware of your individual circumstances, weigh it up, have a conversation with us here at Altitude, and come up with the right solution for you and your business, I think is probably the way to go.
Yeah, absolutely.
Cool. All right.
Thanks for joining us.
Thanks. Stay safe, everybody, and we'll catch up soon.
Keep well. Bye.